So this is why we are here this week. The Debrief comes out with this article, whistleblower, David Charles Grush, 36, decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan. And he was also working with the UAP groups, which we all became familiar with last year after President Trump said, hey, declassify all that UFO stuff. So he comes out this past week, and then an article in the Debrief. There's the link. By the way, the links for all these are in the description of the video on Rumble for anybody who wants to follow up, including contact info for Joe and Guy, Al's video on TikTok, all that stuff. So that's all there in the references. So he comes out and he's basically saying that, look, the U.S. military has recovered not just alien technology and spacecraft, but alien bodies. So, I was going to get Al to ask that question, but Tino brought it up already. So, what do you guys think? First question: is this guy legit? I don't know. What do you guys? You guys got any comments on that? Do you have any reason to doubt what he's saying, or that he believes what he's saying? Let's put it that way.
Well, you look like you were just about to say something, Guy. Go ahead.
Yeah. When my first answer this days ago was about what do you think of the whistleblower, the UFO guy? And I know everybody in the media, people that this sort of thing isn't what they do with any regularity. You know, this is huge in the media right now. But my first response is, you mean the current whistleblower du jour who's saying that? Oh, see, thank you. You guys get it already. Yep. The current whistleblower of the week who's saying that exact same thing.
Yep.
You guys can go back and, like, I do a talk on the Roswell incident that presents the man-made view of it. Do it, not every year here in town, but people come to town to hear about the aliens, and I get up and do a talk, what really happened in 1947. Anybody that can't make it to Roswell, you go right there where it says MrRoswell.com, and there's a link to the YouTube video filmed last time Joe was here, in fact. That was being said then. Alien crash, bodies. I think you, Ian, probably have forgotten more about Bob Lazar incident than I actually know. But 2 years ago, because all those headlines were coming up, and I'm in Roswell, I have to deal with the public. They come in. I started putting together a flyer to give my final opinion on this. If I can, we talked about the share screen factor. I'm going to try and do that right now for you.
Okay. And let's see if I can figure this out.
Oh, I've got it. Present, share screen, screen sharing tips, share screen. And this is what I wanted you to look at. I decided to meet the people with, yes, that is what the media, the same media, well, never mind. We won't get into the last 2-3 years. But anyway, I present this flyer to people that, is the screen showing, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I created the URL, thefakealieninvasion.com. Why is there a THE? Because fakealieninvasion.com was already taken. So rather than try to say, oh, no, they're lying or this, that, the other thing. I mean, this is common in the meme world on Twitter, a little bit of Facebook.
Yep.
The fact that a fake alien invasion is coming for a while. But I just said, yes, here's the headlines that are making it in the paper right now. 60 Minutes, very credible. But what people don't know, going back, or what many people don't know, I think at least one of you guys do, years back, Wernher von Braun worked with NASA, the moon program, the former Nazi. Here's where my Roswell talk kicks in. Operation Paperclip scientists, over 100 of them, were moved here to the U.S., and it was illegal. It was against presidential orders. They paperclipped fake bios over their dossiers to cover up their war crimes because we wanted the technology. In town, live, I do side-by-side PowerPoints of the 1942, 1944 Horton Ho, all these things that the Germans had prototypes of You compare it side by side with the drawings of what the Roswell witnesses draw, and you're like, okay, game over. This is Germany, 1942. This is what crashed in Roswell, 1947. Yeah, no explanation needed. But you have to get into the conspiracies about the bodies or maybe human experimentation and the memory metal, which is it's called nitinol. It was invented in the 1930s by our government, and it does bend back. Some people have it in their eyeglasses these days. But the bottom right, if you can see that, Warner von Braun repeatedly told his secretary, as a scientist who knew what the government was doing, that first the Russians were going to be our enemy. There would be terrorists identified. There would be third world crazies. He said asteroids was in the plan, and we've all seen the movies about that, conditioning or programming us. But the funniest one of all, his secretary, what he called aliens, extraterrestrials, and this is where I'm drawing my line in the sand. That would be the final card. Over and over during the 4 years that she knew him, he was giving speeches for him and with him. He would bring up that last card. Remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it, he said, is a lie. He's saying we were going to make up Middle Eastern terrorists. We were going to make up a war on drugs. All of this stuff is just black ops budgeting. I'm sure somebody in your audience has seen the movie The Long Kiss Goodbye or Goodnight with Gina, a real attractive tall woman. She was a pirate, and I think Samuel Jackson. The plot of the movie was they foiled a terrorist attack in America because that was being put on by the American government because they were about to lose their funding because they weren't relevant. So they had to go blow up a town to get the funding. That's what I think this whistleblower today, the same as Paul Benowitz's case that Greg Bishop, Joe, you've brought Greg in where he talks about how they messed with his mind. Anybody that remembers the Steven Spielberg Taken series that was based on lots of good research, they actually had FBI and CIA agents there going to all the early contactee movement meetings in the 50s and 60s, telling their fake UFO story just to get that disinformation out there. I think I can go into a bit more of my Roswell lecture. I just want to give someone else a chance to talk. The guy himself probably believes he's telling the truth, but someone up higher than him is telling him that, and that person is making it up. This has been in the cards forever. We're going to militarize space to keep us from flying around up there, unless you're a military contractor. It's pretty simple to me that it's just more black ops. We need an excuse. We need a boogeyman. I've been saying it as of 2 years ago. TheFakeAlienInvasion.com was what I went with, and the other part of the flyer, just for your people that are watching. I actually give this out in Roswell. I've been telling people for 2 years. They're going to be lying about this. It's part of the plan. Yeah, I'm crazy. But anyway, and I send people to our YouTube channel where you can get the talks that we've done here in Roswell over the years and the books. But yeah, you can actually right there. I don't have the cursor on there for you.
Oh.
The hoax alien. You can just, I'm saying that since the 1970s. I believe him.
Right. And if I can just throw in now, Joe, you probably want to add something in there, right?
A little bit. I think the same thing. I think this is the new Bob Lazar, something that we were familiar with 20 years ago. And I just think this is the new one. I don't think Bob Lazar was convincing enough to make it work like they wanted to. So let's bring somebody out with a lot more credentials. Okay.
Right. And
it's still, there's nothing to show for this. And if you really have listened over the past 3 or 4 years, since first Lou Elizondo come out, now you got, Semivan, and you've got, what's his name? D'Souza, all these former FBI and CIA guys coming out and talking about this whole thing. But if you listen to them, they're all saying something different. The one common thing that's between them all, the ones that are out talking, they're all experiencers. Listen to their stories. These guys are actually experiencers, abduction experiencers. How this ties in, I'm not sure. But all of them that are out speaking right now and trying to talk about this have actually said that they've had these experiences, which is
Right.
fascinating.
And I also wanted to throw in the you mentioned Operation Paperclip. Let us also bear in mind it wasn't just the U.S. In fact, the Russians got more Nazi scientists than the U.S. did. Operation, I'm probably going to butcher this, Operatskia Oshavyaskim? How do you Osavyashem. Okay. Operation Operatskia Oshavyasim. So that was their version of Operation Paperclip. They got more German scientists, Nazi scientists after World War II. And of interest, they were the ones who captured the Nazi rocket base where the V-2 was developed and built and flown, and also where it is believed the Foo Fighters launched from. So whatever these Foo Fighters were, for those who are watching or maybe not be familiar with them, they were orb-shaped flying craft that were towards the end of World War II were basically flying around and harassing the what do you call like the Allies? Thank you. I knew there was a word for it. Harassing the Allies, and they were pretty like mysterious. They were UFOs. Let's call them what they were. They were UFOs, and apparently they were Nazi developed. That is apparently where they came from. Was that base? The Russians took all those guys. So who knows what they have and what they've done? Because as you pointed out in, I brought that up a lot this past week, actually. As you pointed out, Guy, in your book, the experiments with humans that was going on at the time. And you mentioned what was that one disease?
It's progeria, Progeria, and we do have government documents from the Bill Clinton National Laboratory. Hat tip to Nick Redfern that showed that there were progeria victims, dwarfism, many other anomalies that parents in the 30s and 40s would have just been happy to cast off there because society wasn't ready to deal with that kind of. But when I first stumbled across this Operation Paperclip, and because when I moved to Roswell, and I would hear people tell me what their grandfather said and uncles and pillars of the community, I was like, hold on, am I wrong? I had to, 20 years ago, I had to kind of, what if I'm wrong? God, show me, and yada, yada. But I typed in, it just hit me out of the blue, symptoms, bald head, big eyes. I wanted to assume that the victims were telling the truth. What did they see? And Googled, wow, good job. Google took me straight to progeria. And I'm like, I've never wished I'd been wrong in my life. But there is a secret history, so to speak, of human experimentation by our government. Like you said, the Russians were taking the Nazi scientists. We also know that South America, Brazil, got a huge chunk of them. The Bell UFO comes from that direction. But yeah, if we didn't bring 100 scientists and put them here in White Sands, Los Alamos, Fort Dayton, Ohio, the Russians, we might be. The Russians were taking them. If we didn't, it's it's a judgment call on the war. I'm not talking about the morality of it,